What if I told you there's a cholesterol particle that could dramatically increase your risk of heart disease, yet most doctors won't test for it? This hidden threat could be coursing through your bloodstream right now, and understanding it might just save your life. Today, we're uncovering the mystery of lipoprotein little a, the stealthy particle that modern medicine is finally beginning to take seriously. I'm Dr. Hilary Lynn, a longevity physician. And to get started, I want to tell you about a recent patient, John, who came to me worried about his risk of heart disease. It ran in his family. His father had a heart attack at just age 52. And despite this, John always had normal cholesterol levels whenever he got tested, so he was really puzzled. It was only when we tested his LP little a levels that we discovered the real issue. His LP little a was through the roof. There was a hidden danger we wouldn't never have caught, and nobody had ever caught with standard cholesterol panels. So once we knew, we could get aggressive with his treatment strategy, likely adding years to his life. This is why understanding LP little a is so important. It could be the key to solving the puzzle of your cardiovascular risk. LP little a is not just a rare issue. It's more common than most people think. About 20 to 30% of the global population has elevated lipoprotein little a levels, making it a significant but underappreciated health risk. What's fascinating and concerning is that this prevalence is strongly influenced by genetics, meaning certain ethnic groups are at much higher risk than others. LP little a levels greater than 25 milligrams per deciliter are found in about 30% of Caucasians, but that number jumps to a staggering 60 to 70% in Black populations, who have a median level of 27.2 milligrams per deciliter. In fact, if we go through the population statistics for various ethnic populations, it goes something like this from highest to lowest. In the Black population, we have a median level of 27.2 milligrams per deciliter. Dominican Hispanics have a median level of 16. South Asians have a level of 12. Koreans, 10. Chinese, 9. And Mexican Hispanics have a median level of 5 milligrams per deciliter. So as you can see, there's a more homogeneous level across the East Asian populations. It's usually typically pretty low. But in Hispanics, who are quite ethnically and genetically diverse, you have higher risk levels in the Dominican Hispanics, but much lower risk in the Mexican Hispanics. And of course, the Black population, unfortunately, has the highest risk of all. And this variation comes down to the genetics. Over 90% of the differences in LP little a levels are driven by your DNA. In other words, your genes are the boss here, deciding whether you're going to have LP little a. And unlike LDL or HDL, lifestyle changes like diet and exercise have almost no impact on LP little a. Now that we know who's affected, let's talk about what LP little a actually is. LP little a is a unique lipoprotein particle. Let me clarify. Lipids and cholesterol are types of fats, while lipoproteins are particles that transport those fats through your bloodstream. LP little a is similar to LDL, but with a crucial difference. It has an extra protein attached to it called an apolipoprotein little a, or apo little a. This apo little a is what sets LP little a apart and makes it more dangerous because it behaves differently in the body. You can almost think of these lipoproteins as ships, and they have different flags. And the LP little a has this apolipoprotein little a flag, which turns it into a pirate ship. It's doing dangerous activities in the body. And here's the kicker. Most standard cholesterol or lipid panels don't even measure lipoprotein little a. To reiterate, LDL and LP little a are not the cholesterol themselves. They're the boats, shuttles, or carriers that transport cholesterol and other lipids to different parts of your body. So you can think of LDL, HDL, and lipoprotein little a as different types of delivery vehicles. LDL delivers cholesterol to your arteries, which, if you leave it untreated, that can lead to plaque buildup. HDL, on the other hand, picks up excess cholesterol and takes it back to the liver to be broken down, kind of like a recycling truck. And LP little a is like a rogue shuttle, remember that pirate ship, that not only delivers cholesterol to the bad places in your arteries, but also actively damages your body by promoting inflammation and interfering with the body's ability to clear clots. So elevated levels of LP little a can significantly increase your risk of cardiovascular disease, including heart attacks and strokes. It's like having an undetected time bomb inside your arteries. because it's not included in standard tests. Many people never find out they're at risk until it's too late. Like the pirate ship example, you can imagine Lp(a) as this hidden assassin moving in the crowd, blending in with LDL and avoiding detection by traditional screenings. Lp(a) is a tricky player in your heart health because it impacts your body through multiple dangerous pathways: atherogenesis, inflammation, and thrombosis. So let's break down how Lp(a) exerts its influence on your health, starting with the basics and moving into the science of how it works. First up, atherogenesis. That's the formation of atherosclerotic plaques in your arteries. Lp(a) contributes to this process in several ways, but one of the most important is through promoting the accumulation of oxidized phospholipids. These oxidized lipids are troublemakers because they enhance endothelial dysfunction. So that's when the cells lining your arteries on the side of the blood don't work properly, making it easier for cholesterol and immune cells to infiltrate, or essentially go in between the cells, get stuck in the wall's lining. This triggers the formation of something called foam cells. Essentially, those are cholesterol-loaded immune cells that accumulate in the arterial wall because your immune system sends these macrophages that go in, try to eat up all of the bad oxidized lipids, but can't do so. So they just get stuck and die there. And over time, these foam cells build up to form atherosclerotic plaques, restricting blood flow and setting the stage for a heart attack or stroke. Think of it as a clogged drain. The more gunk, in this case, oxidized phospholipids and foam cells, that get caught in the pipes, which are your arteries, the more restricted the flow becomes, eventually leading to a complete blockage. Lp(a) is a key driver of this clogging process, which is why elevated levels are such a big red flag. Next, we have inflammation. So Lp(a) is a master of causing trouble because it carries those oxidized phospholipids that trigger the inflammatory response in the arteries. Like I mentioned previously, when you've got oxidized lipids in those endothelial cells, they recruit immune cells like monocytes and macrophages to the scene. When they arrive, the immune cells release pro-inflammatory cytokines. So those are messaging particles such as IL-1 beta, IL-6, and TNF alpha. If you are wondering what that means, think of it as a fire alarm going off in your artery. These cytokines are like a signal that bring in more firefighters. But in this case, they're not putting out a real fire. They're just causing a traffic jam and causing more inflammation, making the plaque build up worse and more unstable. So inflammation in your arteries is like this smoldering fire that never goes out. It weakens the structure of the plaques, making them more likely to rupture. So they make them unstable. And when a plaque becomes unstable, it ruptures, it can actually lead to a clot that completely blocks the artery, causing a heart attack or stroke. It's almost like a mine where there's a collapse of the walls, and then the miners can't get back out. When we say that Lp(a) is a pro-inflammatory player, we're talking about a particle that keeps adding fuel to the fire, continuously worsening arterial health. Finally, let's talk about thrombosis, the formation of blood clots. The apolipoprotein a component of Lp(a) has structural similarities to something called plasminogen, which is a protein that helps break down clots in your bloodstream, which is a good thing. When Lp(a) is around, it's waving around this false flag, the apolipoprotein a, and it acts as a decoy for plasminogen. So instead of helping break down clots, it interferes with the healthy process of fibrinolysis, which is how we keep blood clots from getting out of control. We thin it down. So imagine you're trying to clog a drain, but every time you ask your assistant for a tool, they hand you a fake one that doesn't work. That's what Lp(a) is doing. It's pretending to be plasminogen, but can't actually do the job. So this interference increases your risk of forming dangerous clots that can cause heart attacks or strokes. Lp(a) isn't just sitting on the sidelines. It's actively making it harder for your body to deal with clots, adding yet another layer of risk. One of the most concerning aspects of Lp(a) is that if you have an elevated Lp(a), it's actually high for your entire life. By the time you're a toddler, your Lp(a) levels are pretty much set. And unlike LDL or HDL levels, Lp(a) concentrations aren't significantly influenced by lifestyle changes or even by most standard lipid lowering therapies like statins. So if you have a genetically high Lp(a) level, you've probably had them from a very young age. So you've been at risk your entire life, and they'll continue to contribute to heart risk throughout your life thereon. The lifelong nature of elevated Lp(a) means there's this cumulative effect on your health. And over time, the higher Lp(a) levels are associated with increased progression of the coronary plaque burden, chronic inflammation, and all the issues we discussed, leading to heart attacks and strokes. Studies have shown that elevated Lp(a) levels correlate with more rapid development of coronary artery disease and calcification over a decade-long period. It's not just about short-term risk. It's the slow, steady damage that Lp(a) contributes to that makes it so dangerous. So what's the takeaway? Elevated Lp(a) levels represent a genetically determined risk factor that impacts health outcomes through three primary mechanisms: atherogenesis, inflammation, and thrombosis. And unlike other lipoproteins like LDL and HDL, Lp(a) is not influenced by your diet or exercise habits. It's like a stealthy, genetically driven saboteur that starts its work early in life and keeps accumulating risk over the long term. So understanding these mechanisms helps us understand why Lp(a) is so concerning and why understanding your own Lp(a) levels is a crucial step in preventing cardiovascular events before they happen. Now that we know how dangerous Lp(a) is, the next question is, how do you find out if you're at risk? The good news is that getting tested for Lp(a) is actually simpler than you might think, even though it's not part of your standard cholesterol panel. Lp(a) testing is straightforward. It's just a blood test. What's the catch? You need to specifically ask for it. Most routine cholesterol panels will check your LDL, HDL, and triglycerides, but they skip the Lp(a). That's why so many people with high Lp(a) never realize it until something goes wrong. And even though the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association recommend that everyone gets their Lp(a) levels checked at least once, especially if you have a family history of heart disease or an unexpected heart event like heart attack or stroke at a young age, still primary care physicians unfortunately don't test for Lp(a). There's a silly reason behind this. It's because it's simply not attached to standard panels. And so people are running through their 30, 40 patients a day, and they don't remember to add on this extra level to your panel. So what levels should you look out for? Concerning Lp(a) levels start at around 50 milligrams per deciliter, or if you're working with different units, that's 125 nanomoles per liter. If your Lp(a) is 50 milligrams per deciliter or higher, you're in the high risk category for cardiovascular disease. If you're between 30 and 50, you're intermediate risk. In short, if your Lp(a) is anywhere north of 30 milligrams per deciliter, it's time to have a serious chat with your doctor about what you can do about your cardiovascular risk. And it's important to do this early in your life. You don't need to wait until you already have something wrong. That's way too late to get started with preventing heart disease. Getting the full picture of your cardiovascular health goes beyond just knowing your Lp(a) levels, so I wanted to quickly go over the key lipid markers you should have on your radar. Luckily, many of these are on standard panels. So LDL cholesterol, or low-density lipoprotein-related cholesterol, is often called the bad cholesterol. So remember, LDL is like the delivery guy who brings all the wrong stuff to your arteries, leading to plaque buildup. And ideally, your LDL level should be below 100 milligrams per deciliter and even lower if you're at higher risk. HDL cholesterol, or high-density lipoprotein-related cholesterol, is the so-called good cholesterol, that recycling truck that removes excess cholesterol from your arteries. Higher is better here, with a target of at least 40 milligrams per deciliter for men and 50 for women. HDL is what keeps things clean, and you want as much of it as possible. Then we have triglycerides. These are another type of fat in your blood. High levels of it can lead to clogged arteries, just like LDL or grease in your drain. The goal is to keep triglycerides below 150 milligrams per deciliter. When high triglycerides team up with high LDL and low HDL, it's like a perfect storm for heart disease. There's another number which can be sort of useful too, the non-HDL cholesterol. This includes all the cholesterol in your blood that isn't carried by HDL. And it's great to get a sense of how much so-called bad cholesterol you have. You want to aim for a non-HDL cholesterol level to be below 130 milligrams per deciliter. Then we have ApoB, or apolipoprotein B. This is really important and easy to get test. It's a protein that sits on the surface of all the bad lipoproteins like LDL and Lp(a). You can just measure this directly to see the combination of all the numbers of the bad lipoproteins. Measuring ApoB gives you a better idea of how many potentially harmful particles are currently circulating in your blood. And if your ApoB is above 90 milligrams per deciliter, that's a sign that your cardiovascular risk might be elevated. Now, I want to throw in one that typically isn't stated on lab results, but you can calculate really easily yourself. This is the triglyceride to HDL ratio, or TG to HDLC. This can give you valuable insights because studies have shown that an elevated ratio of triglycerides to HDLC is independently associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular events. People with the highest ratios have significantly higher risk of cardiovascular events compared to those with the lowest ratio. And this ratio serves as a summary measure for elevated triglycerides and low HDL, both of which are linked to insulin resistance and cardiovascular disease. And this ratio can actually offer you an even stronger predictor of your heart disease risk and even all-cause mortality, so death from any cause, offering better predictive power than even LDL-C or non-HDL cholesterol levels. In my practice, I typically aim for a ratio of less than 1, meaning a lower triglyceride level than your HDL level. So if you haven't had your Lp(a) levels checked yet, now's the time to take action. It's just one blood test, but it could give you a crucial information that can change your approach to your heart health. Talk to your doctor about adding Lp(a) to your next lipid panel, especially if you have any family history of heart disease, dementia, or high cholesterol levels, which basically is nearly all of us. Knowing your Lp(a) levels is all about staying ahead of the curve and making sure there's no hidden threats to your health. Now let's talk lifestyle interventions. Here's the deal. If you're hoping that lifestyle changes alone will magically lower your Lp(a) levels, you might be in for a letdown. Unlike other types of cholesterol, Lp(a) is largely determined by your genes and stays stable throughout your life. But while lifestyle interventions don't have a huge impact on lowering Lp(a) itself, they still play an overall important role in reducing your overall heart disease risk. I want to dive into now what you can do and why it's still worth it, even if it doesn't completely wipe out your Lp(a). When it comes to diet, the goal is to reduce inflammation and support your heart in every way possible. A diet low in saturated and trans-unsaturated fatty acids is recommended, as trans fats in particular have been associated with increased Lp(a) levels. Here's where it gets a little interesting. Saturated fats are usually the villains in the cholesterol stories, but there's some evidence suggesting that a relatively high intake of saturated fats might actually correlate with lower Lp(a) levels. But don't take that as an invitation to load up on butter and steak. The jury is still out, and the impact on other aspects of your health isn't worth the risk. Instead, focus on anti-inflammatory fats like omega-3 fatty acids. For example, flaxseed, rich in alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, has shown some modest reductions in Lp(a) levels. Studies have also shown that camelina sativa oil, which is high in ALA, and sunflower oil, which is high in linoleic acid, or LA, can lower Lp(a) by 7 to 9%. So these are small changes, but every bit helps when you're managing cardiovascular risk. Consider incorporating these oils into your daily diet as a salad dressing, or add them to your smoothies. What about red wine? Yes, it's true. Moderate consumption of red wine has been linked to lower Lp(a) levels, likely because of polyphenols like resveratrol. One study even showed that Lp(a) dropped by 33% during the first week of moderate ethanol intake. But keep in mind, this effect is likely modest and temporary, and we're definitely not recommending excessive drinking as a solution. If you're looking for supplements, coenzyme Q10, L-carnitine, and flaxseed have also shown slight but significant effects in lowering Lp(a). Here's a quick breakdown. So for CoQ10, if you're using it for Lp(a), you want to aim for 60 milligrams milligrams twice daily, and you can increase the dose up to 400 to 500 milligrams per day. L-carnitine is taken as 2 grams per day, especially if you're combining with other cholesterol-lowering therapies. For flaxseed, you want to get 28 grams per day, which is about 2 tablespoons. Easy enough to add to your morning oatmeal or smoothie, or if you're like me, I mix it in with my chia puddings. So like I mentioned before, it's important to consider your overall health when making lifestyle changes. So while some studies suggest that things like saturated fats and moderate red wine intake can lower Lp(a) levels, I actually typically counsel my patients to minimize these because they can worsen other aspects of your health. Elevated LDL, increased blood pressure, and other cardiovascular risk factors are often linked to high saturated fat intake and alcohol use. So the negatives may outweigh any potential benefits for Lp(a). There are other ways to support your cardiovascular health and improve Lp(a) levels, which we'll dive into here. Now let's talk about exercise. Physical activity is not going to magically bring down your Lp(a) levels, but it has massive impact on your overall cardiovascular health. Regular aerobic exercise, resistance training, and even intense physical activities have all been associated with healthier lipid profile, even if they don't significantly change your Lp(a) levels. Think of exercise as a powerful sidekick. You're not directly tackling the Lp(a), but you're helping your body stay strong enough to manage any damage it could cause. You could even widen your vasculature in a way that you can pump more blood and have good circulation, even with a little bit of clogging in place. Imagine your drain is widening even as there's gunk piling up. That's a little bit of what exercise can do for you. And some studies have shown that intense physical exercise is linked to lower Lp(a), but these effects are inconsistent, probably because what people consider intense is pretty inconsistent. So the real takeaway here is that exercise can improve other lipid parameters like LDL, HDL, and triglycerides, reduce inflammation, and lower blood pressure, all of which are crucial when you have elevated Lp(a). Weight loss can also play a role, though it doesn't always bring down Lp(a) directly. One study involving obese African Americans showed that while a 3-month diet and exercise intervention didn't lower their Lp(a) levels, it did improve other lipid parameters and reduced body mass index, BMI. So losing excess weight is key to reducing your overall cardiovascular risk, especially if you also have high LDL or triglycerides. Adopting a heart-healthy lifestyle, balancing diet, regular exercise, stress management, and avoiding smoking is incredibly important regardless of your Lp(a) levels. Even if lifestyle interventions don't bring Lp(a) down, they can still prevent your elevated Lp(a) from leading to a catastrophic cardiovascular event. So stay proactive, choose a heart-healthy diet, exercise regularly, and talk to your doctor about the best comprehensive plan for your situation. Unlike lifestyle changes, which are important for overall cardiovascular health, but don't do much for Lp(a), pharmacological interventions are where we see actual reductions in this genetic risk factor. So let's break down what's currently available and some promising new players on the horizon. First, let's talk about what doesn't really work that well. Traditional lipid-lowering drugs like statins have been hugely successful in lowering LDL cholesterol, but when it comes to Lp(a), they fall short. In fact, statins can even slightly increase Lp(a) levels in some people. Niacin, a vitamin B3 derivative, and ezetimibe, which prevents cholesterol absorption in the gut, also haven't delivered significant or reliable results for lowering Lp(a). Now let's move on to something more promising, PCSK9 inhibitors. These are drugs called alirocumab, which is Praluent, and evolocumab, which is Repatha. So these are monoclonal antibodies designed to help lower LDL cholesterol, but they also happen to lower Lp(a) levels by about 20 to 30%. They do this by increasing the availability of receptors on the surface of liver cells that help clear LDL and lipoprotein(a) from your blood. But there's a catch. While PCSK9 inhibitors definitely bring Lp(a) levels down, we're still trying to understand exactly how much this reduction translates to a decrease in cardiovascular events, specifically driven by Lp(a). The good news is that ongoing studies are looking into this and early data is promising. So for now, think of PCSK9 inhibitors as a helpful ally. They don't completely solve the Lp(a) problem, but they give you a fighting chance. An interesting twist here is that genetic variations in PCSK9 can actually lead to lower LDL and Lp(a) levels naturally. For example, people with something called the R46L variant of PCSK9 gene have significantly lower LDL cholesterol levels, and, not surprisingly, a lower risk of heart disease. However, these variations can also have some unexpected consequences, like increased susceptibility to respiratory issues. It's a reminder that even in genetics, there's always a balance that needs to be struck. Now, let's get into the real game changers, RNA-based therapies. This is where the cutting edge of cardiovascular medicine is focused. RNA-based therapies include antisense oligonucleotides, which are called ASOs, and small interfering RNAs, siRNAs, both of which target the lipoprotein A gene directly. It's called LPA. The LPA gene is what makes the protein component of Lp(a), that red flag called apolipoprotein a. By shutting down this production line, we can drastically reduce Lp(a) levels. One of the most talked about ASOs is called pelacarsen. This works by binding to the mRNA that's transcribed from the LPA gene, causing it to be degraded before it can produce the apolipoprotein a protein. And in clinical trials, pelacarsen has been shown to reduce Lp(a) by up to 80%. Then there are the siRNAs like olpasiran, SLN360, and LY3819469. These always have really ridiculous numbers in their names when they're in the studies because they haven't come up with the marketing phrase, which is a big process at pharma companies. So these siRNAs also target the mRNA of the LPA gene, effectively preventing the body from producing apolipoprotein a. And in studies, they're showing reductions in Lp(a) levels by up to 90%. So imagine having a dial that controls your Lp(a) production, and with these therapies, you're cranking that dial way down. These RNA-based therapies also have some clever science behind them. Many are conjugated or joined with something called N-acetylgalactosamine, GAL-NAC, which helps direct them straight to the liver. That's the factory where Lp(a) is made. This targeted delivery means fewer side effects and more bang for your buck. It's like how missiles have honing technology to direct the missile to the target every single time. For people with extremely high Lp(a) levels and a lot of cardiovascular risk, there's another option called lipoprotein apheresis. So this is a procedure similar to dialysis where your blood is filtered to physically remove Lp(a) particles. It's very effective, reducing Lp(a) levels by 60 to 75% per session. But it's also time intensive and not widely available. Think of it as a deep cleaning service for your blood. Very thorough, but not something you'd want to do casually. And definitely something you want to do with a validated, trusted physician. Apheresis is especially helpful for people who have not responded well to other treatments and who have very high cardiovascular risk. Beyond just removing Lp(a), apheresis also helps reduce markers of inflammation and thrombosis, which can make a big difference for those dealing with advanced cardiovascular disease. Another exciting development is the class of drugs called small molecule inhibitors. One example is mivalaplin, which works by preventing apolipoprotein a from binding to apolipoprotein B100. This is a necessary step for forming lipoprotein a. It's like taking out a crucial screw and assembling a piece of furniture. Without that screw, the whole thing just falls apart. That's essentially what mivalaplin does. It stops lipoprotein a from being formed in the first place. Early studies are showing really promising results, and because these are small molecules, there's a potential for them to be taken orally, which be so much more convenient for patients. So the takeaway is, while lifestyle changes are great for your overall cardiovascular health, they're just not enough when it comes to Lp(a). Pharmacological interventions are where the real action is, and the future is looking really bright. So from PCSK9 inhibitors that help clear Lp(a) particles to cutting-edge RNA therapies that shut down Lp(a) production to small molecule inhibitors that stop Lp(a) in its tracks, there's a lot going on right now. And let's not forget lipoprotein apheresis, a tried and true option for people who have serious need of intervention. If you have elevated Lp(a), it's important to stay informed about these emerging treatments. So talk to your doctor about your options, especially as these new therapies continue to move through clinical trials. We're on the cusp of some major breakthroughs, and while Lp(a) has been a challenging player in the cardiovascular field, it's finally getting getting the attention and the tools it deserves. All right, we've covered a lot of ground today. And if there's one thing I want you to remember, it's that lipoprotein little a is a sneaky bugger. It's a sneaky risk factor that's often overlooked, but is incredibly important when it comes to cardiovascular health. So let's quickly recap. First, know your enemy. Lipoprotein little a is a unique lipoprotein that carries a very high genetic risk for heart disease. Unlike other cholesterol types, lifestyle changes alone won't significantly reduce LP little a. It's mostly determined by your genes. So if you have a family history of early heart disease, it's crucial to get your LP little a tested. While lifestyle changes can't directly lower LP little a, they're still essential for managing your overall cardiovascular risk. So keep exercising, eat heart-healthy foods, and stay proactive about healthy weight management. So think of it as building a fortress. Lifestyle changes are all about strengthening your defenses against heart disease. The pharmacological revolution is the exciting part. Unlike a decade ago, we now have promising pharmacological options for tackling LP little a. PCSK9 inhibitors are already out there on the market. They're called names like Praluent and Repatha, and they can reduce your LP little a levels by 20 to 30%, giving you a leg up against the risk. Then there are the real game changers, the RNA-based therapies like pelacarsen and olpasiran. These are capable of reducing LP little a by 80 to 90%. They're still in clinical trials, but you can actually join them if you're somebody really concerned and you want to start therapy sooner rather than later. And for those people who have sky-high LP little a levels and significant cardiovascular risk, lipoprotein apheresis is an option. So it's heavy-duty and effective, although intensive treatment. Small molecule inhibitors are also on the horizon, offering hope for an oral option that could stop LP little a in its tracks. So talk to your doctor about getting your LP little a levels checked. This simple blood test can make a world of difference in understanding your cardiovascular disease. And if it's elevated, talk about options. At least get on a PCSK9 inhibitor. While it can be tricky to get this covered by insurance because it's really expensive, you can work with your provider to start on more traditional conventional therapies, which unfortunately won't lower your LP little a, but that usually will lead to building an argument to get the PCSK9 inhibitors covered by insurance. And also join clinical trials. A lot of these trials are really promising already, and these therapies are showing real effect in lowering LP little a numbers. And focus on your overall heart health. Even if LP little a can't be significantly changed with diet and exercise, they matter for your heart. So stay active, maintain a healthy weight, avoid smoking, and consider anti-inflammatory foods. It's all about minimizing the impact of LP little a by keeping the rest of your heart and overall body health as strong as possible. LP little a might be the overlooked villain of cardiovascular disease, but thanks to groundbreaking research, it's finally getting the attention it deserves. The tools to fight it are evolving, and with a combination of personalized care, emerging medications, and lifestyle habits, we can make a real difference in reducing its impact. Thanks for joining me today. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your health. Stay proactive, stay informed, and let's keep working towards healthier, longer lives.